but I don't want to start that up again because I just told them that everything is better. I don't need to drink. We're on Zion. Korbonos is something chamur, and it's doicha Shabbos. We can do korbonos on Shabbos, for example, the oil satomi. Yet, ritzicha doicha oisa. If a kohen is a murderer and he's working on korbonos, you can come in. Beis Din can come into the base of Mikdash and take him away to the base to the Beis Din and kill him. Shenemar me'im mizbechi tikachenu lamut. Even from the mizbech, you can take him to kill him. Shabbos shenitches mipnei avoda. Shabbos that is pushed aside by avoda. Ein din shetei ritzicha doicha. So maybe Beis Din is allowed to do capital punishment on Shabbos as well, based on this kal vachomer. Now, umay o eino de komer. What is this o eino? Hachi komer. Kvuras meis mitzvah toichiach. You know what? Maybe you can break the kal vachomer because you have the concept of meis mitzvah. Meis mitzvah is a corpse that has nobody to attend to it to bury it. Shedoiches avoida. The ein doiches Shabbos. If you are a kohen who's doing the avoida and a meis mitzvah is discovered, the kohen leaves the avoida and is oisek in the meis mitzvah. Yet, meis mitzvah is not doicha Shabbos. You don't bury a meis mitzvah on Shabbos. So hoder on a kfurus meis mitzvah tidcha Shabbos mikal v'chomer. So really, maybe the kfurus meis mitzvah should be doicha Shabbos. Ma avoida she doicha Shabbos. We have korbanos. Korbanos are doicha Shabbos. Kvuras meis mitzvah doicha oisa. Yet, a kvuras meis mitzvah is doicha avoida. That if a kohen is doing avoida, he goes out and does the meis mitzvah. So mivila achoisoi. So that's why we have the pasuk, the extra pasuk v'la achoisoi. It says by a nazir, la'avivu le'imo, la'achi v'la achoisoi, lo yitam alehem b'moislam. So a nazir, from there we learn that a nazir who's going to shech the korban pesach, he's chayiv to be metabe meis mitzvah, even though it's going to prevent him from offering the korban pesach. Shabbos shenitcha b'nei avoda. Right, that's where we learn that first meis mitzvah doicha oisa mivla choisoi, and we continue the kal vachomer. Shabbos shenitcha b'nei avoda. Shabbos is pushed aside when you have korbanos. Eino din should take first meis mitzvah doicha, so that should be a raya that if you have a meis mitzvah on Shabbos, you should bury it. Lo suvaru eish b'chol shvoisecha b'yom haShabbos. The kal vachomer doesn't work. Now, why the solak adaita make card the osiyas evadochilosa say? So, that in us say is doichilosa say even with kores. My o eno de kol mar hochi kamer. This is what the Gemara means. Mani makayim mechaleleh mos yumos. That's b'shar melocha. It's chutz mimisas bezdin. You know who gets put to death when you violate Shabbos? That's other melochos. But Beis Din, who wants to kill somebody, and they have to be soyreif the lead because of sreifa. Maybe you could. Maybe capital punishment will be doicha Shabbos. The osiyas seva the achil also say that was our havamina, that maybe the asay of misas bezdin will be doicha the losa sev Shabbos, even though it's got chorus. Other Omar, so we said, a mardamina sevas losa say greater. The havamina that in us says doicha say that's a regular lav. We only get malchus like chaylev and dam and all the other lavim. Lo sasa shesh bo kares mishamas legadochi. But you have no raya yet that an asay is doicha, lo say that has kares. Hadar Omar, then the dialect went, oh, to asay doichas lo sashay. Now, the whole concept that an asay is doicha lo sashay, why should that be? Lav lo sasay chomer minei? Isn't a lav more chomer than an asay? The ka'asay asay v'dochile. Yet an asay comes to midoichet. And we would say, Mali Chumra Zuta, Mali Chumra Rabba. Who cares whether we're talking about a lav with Malchus or a lav with Kores? Talmud Loi Mar Lo Savaru. We have a pasuk that says, no, you may not do Misas Bezdin. You can't burn the lead to do Sreifa. Therefore, the sugya ends up so far that we have no raya that an asay is doicha lois asay that has Kores. Ella. It's true. It says, Yevama Yavo Aleha. From there we learned that, no, Litzror. No, it's a different pasuk. I'll read you the pasuk. Isha el achota lo tikach. Don't marry your wife's sister. Litzror legalos ervasa aleha bechayeha. From here, the Gemara learned. This is our source material. You have Reuven and Shimon. Shimon is married to Leah. And Reuven is married to Rachel. Rachel is Leah's sister. Normally, Reuven and Shimon are married to women that are not related. Reuven dies. The wife of Reuven falls to Shimon. Shimon's meyabim, no problem. But here there's an erva. There's achos isha. There's the sister of Shimon's wife. Maybe the mitzvah of yibum, the asay, should override the lav. No, we learned from there, aleha, that it doesn't override. And you're not allowed, from here was the source for all the 15 ervis, all the 15 prohibited relations that are detailed in the Mishnah, that if Reuven is married to one of those ervis to Shimon, Shimon cannot be miyabim them. So, Sal Kadaiti Chamina, I thought Tehevi, Hai Eshes Ach. Now, we're going to attack this with a new approach. Normally, you're not allowed to marry your brother's wife. That's an erva. The Torah permits you in the case of Yibum. So maybe we are going to go through some of the limudim when we in Shachris every morning. We learn Tanat Rabbi Shmuel and all of these very complicated kavachoymer and things like that. So maybe Hai Eshes Ach. Hang on. Eshes Ach was part of the general rule that you cannot have relations with an erva. But the Yatsamina klal, it was taken out of the klal. Lelamed, to teach me something. Lo lelamed al atzmo yatsa, it wasn't taken out of the klal to teach something about Eshes Ach. Elo lelamed al klal kulo yatsa. It was given me to teach me the whole din of the klal of erva. What is it? Titania. We have a rule. Dover shaya b'chlal. You have a halacha that's already in a generality. V'yatsamina klal. Keitzad. And we get an example. V'anefesh asher tochal basar mizevach hashlamim. Person who eats the meat of a shlomim, v'tumaso alav, and he is tamei. V'alo shlomim b'chlal kodshim ayu. Shlomim is part of the big category of kodshim. Chatis, osham, oila. Lama yotsu. Why now was this taken out and talked about individually? Lahaki shaleim, to compare. V'loy melacha. Ma shlamim yichodim kodshim mizbeach. Shlamim are unique because they're kodshim that go on the mizbeach. I've called kodshim mizbeach. So it's the same rule for any korban that goes on the mizbeach. What does it exclude? Yotzu kodshe berekabayis. So you can donate kodshim to the Beis Mikdash two ways. You can invest something with kedushas haguf. For example, when you take an animal and you say harezu shlomim, it's got kedushas haguf, and there's certain dinim that apply to kedushas haguf. Then you have, I want to donate things to the temple upkeep, berek habayis. That doesn't have kedushas haguf. Therefore, if you eat something that belongs to berek habayis in a state of tumah, you don't have the same thing as if you ate the shlamim. So the Gemara says, Hachanami, maybe here as well. Living with your brother's wife is already one of the many arayos mentioned in the Torah. Lama yatzasa. So why did the pasuk exclude it or take it out? Lahaki she'le v'lo melacha. Ma eishazach sharya of kol arayos nami sharya. The Gemara is trying to do something very revolutionary here. That just like the makam yibum, you're allowed to live with your brother's wife. Perhaps any time an erva falls to Shimon, maybe he'd be allowed to be miyabim her. From this halachic approach we just took of davar shahaya b'chlal v'yatsa min hachlal. So the Gemara rejects it. Midam, it's not comparable. Hasam klal b'isr part b'isr. There, by the kodshe mizbeach and the kodshe berek habayis, you're both talking about an isser. But hacha klal b'isr prat v'heter. The generality of all the arayos is prohibition. Now the specific detail by yibum is to permit. So rather, says the Gemara, halodami, perhaps this scenario is more comparable to something else. Ledover shahaya bachlal, a halacha that was in a general category. V'yatza lidon b'dover hechadash. It was removed from the general category to teach me something new. What happens then? You can't bring it back to the general rule until the Torah itself brings it back. The Tanya. V'shochat es hakeves bimkom asher yishchat es hachatat v'ta'olah bimkom hakodesh ki kachatat ha'asham hu lakohen. Now, ein tamad l'kachatas ha'asham. What do we need kachatas ha'asham? U'ma tamad l'kachatas ha'asham lefi sheyatza asham mitzora lidam b'davar chadash. When the mitzora comes for purification, and he brings his asham, b'boen yad u'boen ragal yamanis. Normally, the Kohen, when they do shchita, they take the blood and they put it on the mizbeach. Here, they do something new. They put it on the big thumb and the big toe of his right thumb and right big toe of the Kohen, of the mitzora. That's a davar chidush. Maybe I would think that since I'm doing something new here, maybe I don't have to put these bloods at all on a mizbech either. No. Talmud loimer ki chachatat ha'ashamhu. Ma chatas tu namat navim l'gavim mizbeach. Just like a chatas, you have to put blood in a murim on the mizbech. Af osham to namat navim l'gavim mizbeach. The Elohadri Kra, and if the Torah wouldn't have put the Osham Mitzvah back into the regular dinim, hava mina, l'mayda nafak nafak, l'mayda nafak lo nafak. That which was taken out is taken out. That which was not taken out is not taken out. Hachanami hava mina. Here as well, by Eishes Ach, I would have said the same thing. Eishes Ach, the Ishtri. The Torah only permitted Shimon marrying Reuven's wife, Eishesach, but Shararayas law. But if, for example, Shimon's daughter falls to him because Reuven had married his niece, or all the other examples of Arayas, says it wouldn't work. Okay. The Gemara is not finished. There is a principle in the Torah called Mamatzinu. It's like a binyan av. You teach me a halacha here, it works for all other halachas. So why don't we say very simply, Ma eishesach miyab, ma avachas isha tisyabim. Just like the Torah gave you permission, gave Shimon permission to marry Reuven's wife, who's Eishesach, maybe he gave the permission to Shimon to marry his wife's sister as well, if she fell to him. The Gemara says, no, mi dami. Hasam chadi sur, hacha trei sur. If Reuven and Shimon were married to two sisters, Rachel and Leah, and Reuven died, Shimon marrying Rachel are two prohibitions. It's Eishes Ach, right? It was the wife of Reuven, and it's Achos Isha. It's the sister of his wife, of Leah. While normally of Yibum, there's only one Isser, Eishes Ach. When Reuven dies, you end up marrying your brother's wife. It's only one Isser. So the Gemara says maybe Hoyel did Mao the same, Hoyel the Ishtri. We say a new principle. Once there's a heter, right? Eishes Ach, there's a blanket heter. Umenot Temre. Where is a precedent that we say this concept of Hoyel the Ishtri? I'll show you the Tanya. Mitzorah shechal shmini shelo be'erev Pesach. A Mitzorah has to count 7 days. Then on the 8th day, he has to bring korbanos. After he brings korbanos, he can eat kodshim. Problem is, this Mitzorah, his 8th day was Erev Pesach. The Ra Keri Bo Bayom became a Baal Keri, the Tova, and he went to the mikveh. So he's a Tvul Yom. Amru Chachamim, now he has to go into the environs of the Beis HaMikdash to bring his Asher Mitzorah to complete the purification process of a Mitzorah. The problem is he's a Tvul Yom. Amru Chachamim. Even though somebody who is a Tvul Yom, he went to the mikveh, but he doesn't have hair of Shemesh. Even though most other Tvul Yoms, we don't allow them to come into the Beis HaMikdash, this one you can. Why? Mutav sheyavo asay sheyesh bo kores, v'yitcha asay she'ein bo kores. It's Erev Pesach. If he doesn't get purified of his Mitzorah status, he will not be able to eat the Korban Pesach tonight. If you don't eat the Korban Pesach, you get kores. So the asay of kores will come to be doicha asay that does not have kores. What's the asay? Because it says, Vayishalchu min hamachaneh kol tzarov v'chol v'chol tamei lanafesh. So the asay of sending away a Baal Keri is overridden by the asay of Pesach. The Omer of
Lenny,
yes.
What about, he has a chance to bring the korban on Pesach Sheni, right? Or
But
not?
it's always better if you can bring it Pesach Rishon, it's better to bring it Pesach Rishon. So the Gemara has found a way for him to bring it Pesach Rishon. You're right, Mario. If he's Tomei, person dies the day before, and it's second day of he can't, he's pushed aside to Pesach Sheni. But this situation, on the 8th day of a Mitzorah, he can go to the Beis HaMikdash because he's only a Tvul Yom. We'll see in a minute why. Get the blood put on his big thumb and his toe, and now he's purified. And that night he can eat the Korban Pesach. Doesn't need Pesach Sheni.
Okay. All right.
Ramav Yochanan Dvar Tarfilo Asay Lesbe. Really, Minator, there is none of that Asay. Why? Shenemar Vayamod Yeshafat Bikayu Lefnei Chatzar Chadasha. Later on in Divrei Yomim, it says Melech Yoshaphat, he made new rules. My Chatzar Chadasha. Amru Yechon Shechitzu Bo Dvarim. V'Amru Tvul Yom Lo Yikanes L'Machna Leviyah. That really, Minator Tvul Yom could come into the Harabayas. Later on, they made a Gzeira not to. So Minator, there's no problem. Amar Ula Matam. Hoyel V'Hutu L'Tzarosei Hutu L'Kruyav. This is now, we found it. We asked, where is the principle of Hoyel V'Ishtri? Once something is permitted, it's all permitted. So the Gemara says here, since he was permitted for his Saras, he's permitted for his Balkari status. The Gemara is going to deflect this as well. We'll learn this tomorrow.
Good stuff. Right.
What time tomorrow?
Tomorrow, learn at 8 p.m.
8 p.m.
8 p.m.
Okay, good night.
Yeah.
Okay, good night.
Good night.